Welcome to Drink Naked. My name is Stewie Robinson from Naked Wines. On this podcast, I'll be talking with a legend, an absolute rock star from the world of wine, and hopefully getting the answers to what drives them to do exactly what they do. Along the way, you'll learn a lot about wine and the many, many exciting things about it, but especially you'll learn about how the winemaker, when free to express their creativity, can make something truly awe-inspiring and life-changing. Today on Drink Naked, all the way from the Pyrenees in Victoria, as opposed to the Pyrenees in Spain or the Pyrenees in France, we welcome the young gun that is Leighton Joy from Sunday Vinco. Welcome to Drink Naked.
Thank you very much, Stu. Lovely to be here.
Thank you for coming all this way. Literally, Leighton flew in from the airport from Victoria into Sydney around about half an hour ago, and here we are. But just as a nice little intro to you, you've been recently anointed as a recipient of a 2019 Top 50 Young Gun of Wine Award.
Yes.
You've won multiple medals at national wine shows, including the Western Victorian Wine Challenge Trophy for Best Shiraz and Best Wine and Show. And really, you've only really got started.
That's right.
I mean, and just before you basically tell me your whole story, I want to quote this back to you because I find it very exciting. You joined Naked Wines on the 8th of July 2015, which is literally 3.5 years ago, thereabouts. You said that your long-standing goal was always to produce and sell 10,000 cases. And you said, I see Naked Wines as my vehicle to help me reach that goal. Can you just fill us in? Are we close to reaching that goal in just 4 years?
Yeah, I'm happy to say we are. We're coming in hot. And at the time of joining Naked Wines, I wouldn't have anticipated that to be the case, actually, because truthfully, I wasn't aware of what Naked was capable of in terms of driving sales for Sunday and the home of Sunday, that being our vineyard in the Pyrenees. So, yeah, I could foresee another year or two and we would be well and truly at that goal at the current rate. So,
how does that make you feel?
Yeah. Oh, look, a bit of this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's been a group effort from the support network I've got both at home and at the property. Mm-hmm. And
just, you mentioned your property, and you'll find that I actually interrupt a little bit, but tell me to shut up if you want to.
No.
Let's go back because prior to 2015, because there's another quote here, which you've said many times, which is, I look at what I'm doing here as either before or after Naked. Now, we'll go and talk about after Naked in the last 4 years soon, but can you just bring us up to speed about what was happening prior to you coming on board as a Naked winemaker? Because there was a lot of chaos and there was a lot of financial challenges.
Yes.
And there was a lot of family stuff going on. Can you just give us an encapsulation of what was happening in your life and your family's life around that time?
Yeah, sure. From a business perspective, it was sort of two steps forward, one step back. Even one step forward, two steps back. A lot of pushing uphill, and that was probably due to timing as much as anything. I think our vineyard was put in the ground in '99. So, and look, they say a vineyard's a 15-year proposition to come into fruition.
Into quality
or
sustainability? Into
sustainability, right. as an entity,
mm-hmm.
Which is quite horrendous when you think about it, considering the investment required. And I had a front seat ride. I was a front seat passenger to the development of the business, so I saw the effort and the finance that was going in.
With your family?
Yeah, absolutely. Primarily my father as the main investor, Brian. And so as time moved on, we weren't achieving our goals, I guess. Although truthfully, we probably didn't have goals in place to achieve, which probably came down to a structural issue and a management issue.
Just fill me in. Were you winemaking at this stage?
No, I was early on. I'd after we put it in the ground, I actually skipped the country, and following that, I was working in wine retail and a bit of university viticulture. Actually, so I was in the I was walking down the path that sort of led me here today.
Mm-hmm.
However, as the property wasn't sustaining itself, I wasn't able to come in on a full-time basis and try and establish what it's, I guess, become today. So, look, it's fair to say, if I was to sum it up in one word, I would say turbulent from a vineyard point of view, and emotional, quite challenging. From the home front, I probably had more free time as well, which I was using as a mid-20s, adolescent might do. So, perhaps not all the focus that was required. I can stand here today and say that I'm happy finally in the way it's progressed and developed, and that I've knuckled down in many a sense, which is it's paying off since coming on board.
How old are you now?
40 in a few months.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I tend to forget about.
So you're all grown up.
Yeah.
Without being condescending in the slightest.
No. It's funny because I guess even when I was 30, actually when I in my early 30s, I actually realized my age, because I had grown up, and I had an analogy with sporting personas, and I'd always I had a perception that they were always older than me.
Yeah, right.
For God knows what reason, but
then you found out that they were the same age as you.
as I entered my 30s and my mid 30s, and people were retiring around me, I thought, oh God. This is happening. So I grew up quite quickly. I had to grow up quite quickly when I stepped in full time into the business. Look, I left wine retail. I was always working with the business, and I left. I dropped everything that I was doing for payment, took a pay cut, and jumped in on board with in a full-time capacity, and I gave myself 5 years to try and establish something.
Yep.
And that's what it needed, basically.
Just that laser beam focus.
Yeah. It needed drive. It needed ideas. It needed someone to knuckle down. I went in perhaps without the entire skill set required. So it was an awfully steep learning curve, and many hats have been worn.
Well, I actually often tell the story about you wear management hats, administration hats, winemaker hats, cellar door hats, branding hats, everything. That's a lot for a young bloke to take on their shoulders.
Yeah, and not knowing which hat to wear at the in the moment was difficult. Yeah, difficult to understand. I didn't have a mountain of resource behind me, so it was a bit of a guessing game, actually. I got lucky here and there, and then I had a couple of misses here and there, and as 5 years transpired, I realised that I had made monumental stride in terms of turning it around, and it would be, we weren't there yet, but it was a shame to sort of turn my back on it. So we persisted, and I think within a year or two of that, we were on board with Naked, and and then we have before and after Naked. It's truly been a whirlwind actually since then. Our capacity's gone up. We actually look like a winery now.
Yeah.
The development on site is awesome. I'm not throwing spanners at distemmers. We've got nice equipment. I threw a spanner, Stu.
That's okay. We've all thrown spanners at some point. But it's interesting because prior to, I often tell the story when, regarding people with the Leighton Joy story and I don't like to be over dramatic, but there was a point there where prior to joining Naked Wines with Sunday Vinco exclusively for Naked Angels, there was a point when it could have gone either way as a family business. Right?
Oh yeah, big time. So I guess as a sequence, we began doing a bit of exporting into the US, and I thought that was my main break. I thought I've got one, and I thought that would develop. And actually at the same time, we started doing a little bit into the UK. The UK unfortunately petered out quite quickly. The US continued. However, that also came to an end, and at that stage, the difficulty I had in the US was we entered the market when the dollar was at parity.
Yep.
Basically a pricing issue coming off the end of it between myself and our importers. But that's all water under the bridge. The business was, I say water off the bridge. We could have pushed the business off the end of the cliff, basically, because it needed constant finance, and
because it can be a money pit, right?
Dead set money pit, and mounting pressure. I experienced mounting pressure in that respect because I could see the finance coming in, and it seemed like a deeper hole, basically. It's like, and our bank manager even at the time was like, can you how much longer do you guys want to do this?
Yeah, right.
Essentially. That guy's trying to give us a bit of advice, basically. And so that was hard to hear, but also entirely realistic. So actually approached Naked on my own accord, and then a few days later, I think there was a Naked article in a paper that my father had read, and he mentioned, have you tried Naked Wines on? I said, I've actually got samples with them. I'll get back to them. So it was funny how that all transpired. And soon enough, I was on a plane in Sydney, nervous as hell, and talking with the gang.
Love it.
Yeah.
Because, here you are standing doing a chat with me in 2019.
It is crazy. It is a truly, and it's not an uncommon theme among the suppliers to Naked.
Yep.
The story of before and after Naked, it truly is a common theme when we all get together annually. It's kind of it's easy to laugh about. But it is actually laughable.
Somewhat romantically, we like to say that, with angel funding, our angel customer funding, we have the potential to change lives.
Yeah.
And what I've just loved hearing about is the fact that we have helped change a life.
Yeah, big time. And not just my life. I've got full-time people on the vineyard.
Right.
And I've been able to get a part-timer a full-timer now into the winery as we've grown a bit. And they're loving it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So it's helping. It's helping more than me. But and it's. I've had people come into the property to do a bit of contract work here and there, and they've seen me sort of grow with the business.
Yeah.
And they've probably noticed. Well, I've been able to tell a story as we've gone.
Yeah.
And overwhelmingly. I just get the same response every time I see these people now. I'm so happy for you, Leighton. Like, I'm so happy for you that you've managed to, turn this thing around and get it up and running. So, Yeah, which is it's heartwarming
warms my
to hear.
heart
It
to
is.
hear that.
Yeah. Thank you, Stu.
I've got to quote you another quote here because you've just got so many quotes over the years that I've jotted down.
Go on.
So it sort of ties into, you joined in 2015, and then in 2016 you actually said, I got my second order from Paul from Naked Wines for some more wine, resulting in a short-term emotional breakdown.
Yeah. Well,
Were you just overwhelmed with the fact that, jeepers, we're going to do it again?
Yeah. Like, absolutely. As I mentioned, the winemakers get together annually for the annual tastings, and following my initial following the time I came on board with Naked, I thought, this is great. Can it continue?
Yeah.
Basically, it's always in the back of my head. And talking to the winemakers, just ask, and generally you'll get some help. And even Greg Banbury, the general manager at the time, mentioned to me, Leighton, if you need anything, just ask. Yeah. Basically, so having not experienced selling multitudes of wine previously, it was I needed a picture basically, so I could set myself and the business around what we needed to do. And so I asked our wine guy, Mark, what I should expect, basically. And later that afternoon, he dropped a number of purchase orders into my inbox, and I did. I lost it. I was home by myself and was working out of home, and didn't know what to do with myself. So had a glass of water and laid down for a while.
For those who are listening, by the way, when Leighton talks about a purchase order, that's basically that's code for we have put cash into his tin.
Yeah. And what that allowed me to do was work closely with my bank manager and lay out plans. And that was when I realized, wow, this is going places. And also not panic, but I need a rush of urgency to continue the job, and
because it's a different type of pressure, isn't it? To
get us up to I certainly had the my gut feeling that things would get easier as the business developed and established itself. However, that in fact is not true. It becomes much harder because there's more work to do, and
different type of hard though. Different type of pressure, right?
Far more enjoyable. You can ride that sort of pressure.
Yes.
Whereas it's not an oppression. It's more of
an elation.
Yes, entirely. So that's how things have unfolded with us at Naked, basically.
Nice story.
And I do tell the story to as many people as I can.
I mean, what we try and do is, we've now got, as of last Sunday, 53 winemakers and counting on board with Naked Wines, now making exclusive wines.
It's so awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
And we never tell you what or how to make. We basically just say, you make it and we will get it to the angels.
Yeah.
It's a pretty unique model, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And the fact that I can pitch an idea and get a yes or a no, and then plan around that, without fail, knowing that we'll move onto the shelves of Naked Wine in 18 months' time or something.
Yes,
is essentially unheard of, I believe. So the Naked model, and what I've just described with getting orders and having that finance very early on, is basically unheard of.
Yep.
You can tell any winemaker that story, or anyone in business basically, and they'll say, "Wow, that's unheard of." And so it's a very unique model.
We call it the Virtuous Circle, without being too sort of grand, and it basically is that it all
like that.
feeds into this holistic nature of everyone wins.
Yeah.
You win,
Yeah,
our customers win, the business wins.
Yeah, that's entirely right. I mean, I think I came on board with 30, I think I was around 30-ish.
It would have been, yep. 30 winemakers.
30 winemakers supplying Naked, the local winemakers, and for another 20 to come on board in a relatively short space of time is exceptional. And as you say, everyone wins.
Yeah.
There's as the business continues to grow,
absolutely,
you can.
And that's the thing. We only bring on new winemakers when we actually get more and more angel customers.
Yeah,
because it is a self-funding business.
Yeah, it hasn't. Yeah, entirely, and I respect that. It hasn't. It hasn't played on my supply to Naked, and my supply's only grown as time's gone on.
Yep, which is brilliant.
So yeah,
I want to dip a little bit into your past in terms of you've been involved. You went to winemaking school.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And did you then have a rite of passage overseas making for other companies as some people do, or did you make for some grand company down in the Barossa Valley, or have you come through your family vineyard and that's where you've learnt everything?
Yeah. It's been very, it's fair to say, as I stepped out of uni, there was a necessity for me to sink my teeth in on the property, and that was a requirement that I saw in order to have give the vineyard a fighting chance. So you
no,
I haven't
listened to the call of the family. Basically.
Yeah. I did, and that was my desire, I guess, at the time. There's no point going, jet setting around the country and around the world, and then giving up a golden opportunity on your own piece of dirt.
Yeah,
it's a
dream.
If that option's there, I mean,
dream.
Granted, I'm extremely fortunate in that respect.
Well, let me cut to the chase then, because in four short years, you've garnered close to 3,000 Naked Angel followers. These are people that basically customers who love everything that Leighton does, that you do, and hangs off every single word that you post on your personal Naked Winemaker wall. You've garnered over close to 15,500 ratings on your wines. That's people who can be, who love it so much they want to actually tell you about it personally. I mean, that is just brilliant.
It is riding that wave of support is definitely a part of the show.
I want to get to your wines though, because you told me that you basically came through winemaking college. You listened to the call from the familial mum and dad to come and do your share and of the work which you've clearly been doing ever since, and yet you make wines that are clearly pushing the boundaries of fashion or trend,
convention, I guess,
and convention or zeitgeist or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Where did that rebellious? Because I'm getting to the chase now, right? You're a young bloke who is a rebellious winemaker. You walk to the beat of your own drum. You make wines the way that you want to make them, and they are not basically wines that you will find on any bottle shop because they're exclusive to us.
Yeah.
But they are wines in styles that are basically ticking all the boxes in Manhattan wine bars and the trendy wine bars and popular wine bars around Australia.
Yeah.
Where did you get that desire to make this style of portfolio? And then tell us what I've just been alluding to.
Yeah, sure. Certainly some of the wines we've got are more creative than others. You need to have fun in the winery. It's essential because where we are is in isolation. And
geographically, you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're talking the Pyrenees here, right?
Pyrenees region.
So where is it and how isolated is it?
So northwest out of Melbourne, through Ballarat, which is about an hour out, and then we're about another slightly over an hour again, so about 250 kilometres northwest of Melbourne. The region itself's got quite a few wineries, and it's an extremely well-established region.
Cool climate, yeah.
Within Australia, yeah, cooler, sort of moderate climate. Certainly cool nights. We're at elevation, so we do have warmer days through the summer, which aid ripening and in the reds certainly, but the cooler nights to maintain some sort of natural acidity there, which plays into the style that the wines are made in, which is a more medium to full palate rather than a big blockbuster sort of a style. I guess I have held a creative streak in my upbringing. An uncle of mine was actually an arts teacher many years ago, and he would hang out with me when I was a young tacker and show me how to draw and spend time with me in that respect. And yeah, I learnt I learnt my creative. I got in touch with my creative side through him, essentially. And I've always enjoyed, picking up a pencil and having a scratch. So essentially, although I don't have as much opportunity to express a creative side through painting or whatnot now, whatever medium I might have used in the past, skateboarding, whatever, I've definitely taken that edge into the winery with me and looked for and used it as an outlet basically for that passion for creation.
So these really are an extension of you, aren't they? Because this is you having fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you still haven't quite answered my question about the stylistic difference to why are these styles of wine ticking all the boxes in all those cutting edge wine bars now?
Yeah.
What is about these styles that is different from traditionally made wine that is making people sit up and take notice?
Yeah. Well, I guess to single one of these wines out in particular, I'd have to look at this guy. This being my Winemaker's Fantasy release, which if Naked hadn't thrown enough surprises at me early on with the orders that had come through and the like, this Winemaker's Fantasy certainly was the icing on the cake. It was an opportunity to it was a green light to do whatever I wanted, basically. And that's a massive question. And if you were to make one wine in the whole world, what would it be? This
is it.
It was that guy. And I
can I just give you a little bit of background about what you're referring to?
Yeah.
The Winemaker's Fantasy.
Absolutely.
Each year we go to our customer angel base and we pitch. We basically asked 3 winemakers who have had phenomenal success in the last 12 months to actually pitch their dream wine that they could make if all the planets aligned financially and distribution-wise. What would they make? And if it gets enough votes from our customer angel base, they get to make it, and they get $80,000 to go and make it, right? Crazy. And so Leighton pitched this idea of making a sparkling wine that was actually called an ancestral sparkling, which is in the sort of the trendy places would be called a pet nat, right? Pétillant naturel, which is
a bottle fermented.
Bottle fermented sparkling, the most ancient way of making a sparkling wine.
Yeah.
And you made it.
Yeah. It was a crazy story that unfolded because this is a 2015 wine. Sorry, 17. 2017 wine.
Yep.
And in 2015, we made like 3 cases of that style of wine as a trial, basically.
36 bottles.
Yeah. Just to understand the process. And
Yeah.
it was a guessing game. We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I've still got a few of them, and some of them worked, some of them not so much. And I laughed because I was supplying Naked at that time, and I said to the dude that was working with me, I said, I'm gonna fill that tank with Ancestral and sell it to Naked Wines.
You see if I don't.
Yeah, I was because I'd come to understand what Naked was capable of by then, and it was a pretty outlandish statement, but lo and behold, when the fantasy proposal came to be, that was the clear, that was a no-brainer. I was like, I said I was going to do it. Let's just do it. And look, the other option was going to be a Cabernet Franc in New York, actually, Long Island, New York. That was my other harebrained idea. However, I did have a very young daughter at that stage, and more time away from home wasn't on the agenda. So this was an idea that I could grab out of left field and run with in my own backyard. Yeah, amazing. So we went with it. And, it worked. I'm extremely happy to put that wine out and have the opportunity to do it. As it is a different wine. It's an unconventional wine. It was received in a roundabout way, more so positive than negative, but it was a tricky one for the audience. But a lot of. I'm really glad I tried this wine, basically. I'm really glad I had the opportunity to try this wine.
The vast majority of drinkers in Australia would not have tried a wine anything like that.
Yeah.
So to actually try it at such an affordable price was just amazing.
It's a steal. We do another ancestral method wine that you'll find in a lot of the nice on-premise establishments in Melbourne, throughout Melbourne. So it's a steal to get that into your letterbox at $20 a bottle or whatever it is. Yeah.
So if this is an ancestral method or
a pet nat,
Pétillant Naturel wine, that is the most ancient way of making a sparkling wine because the fermentation happens in the bottle. What else sort of guides your winemaking direction? What else is edgy about what you do as opposed to the mainstream doing?
Well, with disc, look, it's as the style of contemporary Australian wine evolves, the concepts of sort of indigenous yeast fermentations and minimal additions or lesser additions by way of enzyme, tannin, and so on and so forth. It's becoming less of a left field concept, in my respect. But I might
agree.
I might have a little bit of tunnel vision because I look at a lot of wines that I really like, and they're making inroads into Australian.
But you are hearing more of what you've just alluded to.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Which is awesome to see. Maybe with a younger crowd, but more generally speaking as well. So hands-off winemaking, let's see what's unfolding before we manipulate it too much.
But you definitely believe in that the wine should be not just a representation of you and your creative outlets, but I'm getting the feeling that you feel as though the wine should be a representation of where they've come from as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Place and season. Every season's different. Particularly where we are, we've got our own water catchments. Some years we'll have more water, some years we'll have less water, and if we can only irrigate so much in a season, that will definitely affect the way the fruit's looking when it comes in, whether it's a fuller style, more structured body, or otherwise. So the wines definitely are representative of a time and a place, I would say.
Who makes the call on picking your fruit? Is that you?
Yes. Yeah, we make it in. I've got a vineyard manager, Graham Miles, who is a local, and he's been in the wine industry for a lifetime, essentially. So he knows a vineyard backwards, and I'm in consultation with him about what's happening. So we get out there, and as it comes to the pointy end of the season, we're looking at fruit sort of every few days to isolate parcels out of the vineyard that will need to go into the rosé, isolate parcels out of the vineyard that will need to go into a sparkling Shiraz or an ancestral. It's an early pick, so we need some brighter fruit, higher acidity, lower sugar. So yeah, it is myself and Graham generally, and it's often it often happens faster than you anticipate. Sometimes the vineyard can bounce up and down in terms of its readiness. So one day you'll be twiddling your thumbs, and the next day you'll be raking stems.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't just source from Pyrenees, you also source from Bendigo and Heathcote as well, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, and a bit out of the Grampians. Grampians, I missed the season out of the Grampians in 18, I believe, because they had a massive frost event, unfortunately, which can be a bit of an issue. So they lost everything, unfortunately, which took me over to Bendigo. So working with suppliers is something like fruit suppliers is something that I prior to Naked, I would have never anticipated actually. The need to go out and look for something else, like more fruit.
Source more raw produce.
A crazy concept. So that's been another step in our path with Naked and an enjoyable opportunity to do something different, particularly I think I've got it here, the Nero d'Avola. Off the Chalmers Vineyard in Heathcote.
Oh, is it?
It is, who I believe are suppliers to Naked, which is a boon for you guys because, they're awesome. Awesome.
We have Bart Van Olfen.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
With
one of our winemakers.
Yeah.
But just for those people who might be intrigued, Chalmers are clearly one of the most innovative what would you call it? Producers of grape vines in Australia.
Yeah,
they are the go-to family, aren't they?
Yeah, big advocates of the alternative varieties, and which is really exciting. And they've got beautiful vineyards, well tended, well maintained. So I remember, I think the first year I took fruit from Heathcote was 2015 of the Nero d'Avola, and I said to Nick, who I was working with at the time, I really hope this works because I'd really love to get this parcel of fruit year in, year out. And sure enough, it has. It's coming to the winery year in, year out.
Isn't that great?
It keeps coming through to the Naked Wine shelves, and people are picking up and picking it up and loving it. It's a lighter style, super juicy, blueberries.
It's amazing. I mean, just the fact that you've just alluded again to another benefit of being a part of this Naked family, which is that there is certainty around supply and certainty that you can give your growers and suppliers. I mean, we were talking about it when you and I were breaking bread down with Sam Plunkett at his winery a little while ago. I mean, he actually just said, and you've alluded to it today as well, that you employ part-time people, you employ full-time people, so does Sam Plunkett. And as a result, supporting these isolated communities, I mean, it just is awe-inspiring that the trickle down effect that
it's a good way to put it. There is definitely external benefits.
Yeah. And the other external benefit, talking about Nero d'Avola being an alternative variety. I mean, it's being talked about now so much and in so many places that in 5 years' time it will not be an alternative variety. I mean, we are changing the way that wine is actually perceived and drunk and enjoyed in Australia.
Yeah, getting the Nero d'Avola out to Naked Wine consumers is a boon for the Australian wine industry, I think, because it's a variety that by and large, a lot of naked drinkers are saying, I haven't seen this grape, never heard of it. I love it. I love it, which is only going to encourage them to source it and continue to drink it, which will.
While we're on that little wine there, Nero d'Avola, which is one of my favourite red wine styles at the moment and has been for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Who would you suggest has a crack at a Nero d'Avola? I normally drink this, therefore I should try this type thing.
Yeah, sure. Well, if you could take a two-pronged answer. If you love heavy reds, it's worth breaking up that. It's worth taking the blinkers off and having a look at what can be achieved with a lighter style and a lighter structure. If you enjoy a rosé, you can put a Nero in the fridge and put a chill on it.
Okay.
And because this wine in particular is very fruit driven, very fruit forward. So it's diverse in its application, I would say. So I would truthfully, I'd recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, perfect. Background in brand and marketing. I mean, we've talked holistically about where you've come from, your influence of the family, the fact that you're in love with the vineyard that you've actually, thrown your, adult life into. We've also mentioned the fact that, your dream in 2015 was to get to around about 10,000 cases, and we're damn close to that. If not there already after just 4 years.
Yeah, staggering actually.
I mean, and you're almost 40, right? A young bloke. So what do you do when you've actually gone, jeepers creepers, tick, 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 I've achieved this, and this, and this in just 4 years.
Yeah.
Where next? What's the next goal?
Refinement.
Yep.
And improvement. Attention in the vineyard, I think. Cabernet Franc is where we go next.
You've mentioned that twice now. Do you have plantings of it?
I do. And
related to Cabernet Sauvignon, but very rarely grown or produced 100% varietally in Australia, right?
Yeah, often blended into a Cab Sav or just a generic red blend. As a varietal, it's a standout in my opinion.
Why?
Beautifully aromatic, fragrant, well-structured. It rides a nice line between fruitfulness and savouriness if it's picked at the right time. And in my experience, really quite moreish. So it's a stunning drink. You can put it in a fancy glass and take it seriously, or you can put it in your latte jar and tip it on your head.
It's a wine for all seasons.
It goes well. And so we've got a little bit, and we have grafted on the back of last season, we grafted a little bit of Cabernet Franc over some Shiraz on the property, which is essentially taking a Shiraz vine and throwing a bud into it from a Cabernet Franc vine and training that up and then cutting the Shiraz out basically and transforming it into another variety because it's one of my favourite grapes in the winery. So
Great.
I anticipate I might even do that again, and it's a fun grape basically.
Well, us, if you grow it and make it, we'll take it. That's
the goal.
Food and wine, are your wines friendly with food?
Yeah, absolutely. Medium structure, modest dog, they go well. paired with food generally. And yeah, the right Cab Franc would certainly pair with something delicious. You know what I like to say goes with wine is pizza, because of the diversity of pizza.
Yeah.
Put anything on it.
Well, yes, you can. Hey, let's crack the Nera. I want to have a try. Can we do that?
Sure thing.
Nera d'Avola from Heathcote.
Yeah.
By Leighton Joy.
This one being a 2016, I believe, which was a warmer season.
Yes.
And being a warmer season, you'll see a bit more tannin extraction.
Yep.
Out of this example, but still...
God, it jumps out of the glass. I can smell it from here.
Really, highly aromatic. It comes into the winery with incredible integrity, like fruit integrity, and by that I mean whole berries.
Yep.
So it ferments away in like a whole berry form, which gives it a resemblance to a Beaujolais style, which is a younger style.
Do you mean whole berry or whole bunch pressed?
In this case, whole berry, which means it hasn't gone through the crusher.
Yep.
So, yeah, you still do get what they call the carbonic effect out of a whole berry fermentation.
And that clearly shows care in the actual vineyard and
picking and
harvesting, right?
Yeah. The operation from this vineyard is second to none.
That is just so juicy.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And aromatic.
Yeah.
With loads of flavour.
Yeah. The
silky tannins, it's just beautiful.
Yeah. I think the takeaway from this one for me is the structure of the wine.
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Pizza.
Any day of the week. Sunday every day.
Sunday every day. Where does the name Sunday Vinco come from?
Look, I've had to think about this, funnily enough.
Because it's your brand.
It is. I live it.
You live it.
Love it. Sunday. Sunday is a day of options, essentially. So, granted, everyone has a duty, but more often than not, a Sunday will give you an option to kick back and watch the footy, take the dog for a walk, do some home cooking, and it's
chill.
It's your time. Yeah. Sunday has a connotation to it. It has a factor that, Wednesday doesn't. Yeah. Or Tuesday, even worse.
But Sunday, you're absolutely right.
It's nice.
It's sacred, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've talked about the isolation out in the vineyard, But you actually live in the city, don't you?
I do.
In Melbourne City.
Yeah, I do. I've been in Melbourne I had this conversation with my cab driver this morning. I've been in Melbourne for, I believe, 27 years now. Wow. 26 to 27, which I wouldn't have known if I hadn't have had the conversation this morning. And so that's home for me. That's where my family life is. And
you've got 2 children?
2 young daughters, Frenchie and Minka.
How old?
1 and 2.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they are excellent, if not challenging. So yeah, that's been a life changer for me. But that aside, yeah, Melbourne is home. So I do find myself moving constantly between the property and Melbourne, and I re-establish myself on site through harvest because the commute just becomes far too much. The workload's quite excessive. So
you really do celebrate when you get that last
skip
into the crusher.
It's it's crazy on a big season. I seldom get to go home. So when we're pulling up stumps and things are done and dusted, it's jubilation.
Absolutely.
And I'll find myself in my local neighborhood walking down, the local strip, laughing essentially because the level of displacement is ridiculous.
Yes.
It feels like I'm walking on Mars, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the next 20 years?
20 years.
I know, it's a long way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Still making wine? Still involved in the wine?
Yeah, look,
family?
I'd like to think so. Although 20 years, I mean, if I look back at the last 20 years, I wouldn't have known where I'd be today.
No, exactly.
So
it's a big question, isn't it?
It's the toughest question you've certainly asked me today. And
Yeah.
probably.
Actually, that's a really tough question. I take it back
No.
because so much has happened in the 20 years. I mean, what a ridiculous question to ask. 5 years, maybe. You know?
No. In 20 years, I don't know where I'll be. 5 years, we will definitely be doing bigger and better things on site. We're looking at sort of a stage 2 development at the winery, which will be sort of a storage and processing area, which will make life easier as we've gone on to greater things. Space is space is always going to be an issue at the winery, but yeah, hopefully in 5 years' time, I'll be able to take a picture of what I would describe as an epic winery.
What a great dream.
Yeah.
We're almost coming to the end, so I want to thank you. Now that you've reiterated how much travelling you actually are doing between Melbourne and Pyrenees and Heathcote and Bendigo, I feel a little bit guilty for getting you up here in Sydney, but
no way.
Thanks for coming up today.
What about the weather?
Our weather or yours?
Sydney weather.
Oh, yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's got to be the greatest weather in the country.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as we were talking about this morning.
Yeah.
Could you call this autumn or winter?
You don't have to ask me twice.
Okie dokie. As always, I always like to wrap it up with 5 questions in 5 seconds, which I always say has never once come in at 5 seconds. So feel free. What's your favourite wine?
Variety-wise or?
Yeah, style.
Cabernet Franc. Skin contact Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, right. So what? Lots of texture.
Yeah. Cabernet Franc. Yeah.
Have you done a skin contact Sauvignon Blanc?
I have actually, and that's the skin contact Sauv Blancs I've done. I'm sort of pushing the boat out, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there's actually one on the website, on the Naked site. So it'll divide a room. I'll say that.
Great.
You love it or you hate it, which is awesome. And I don't mind splitting a room.
No.
With a wine style.
I just like it. When people form an opinion, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your favourite wine moment? Anywhere, anytime so far?
Oh, certainly not the time I threw that spanner. Favourite wine moment would be opening a 1986 Chateau Margaux with my wine mentor.
Wow.
Patrick Epstein, who I was working with in a cellar at one stage. And he invited me back for a wine dinner. Actually, I wasn't a part of the wine dinner. I just walked in pre-service while they cracked these wines. And it was a real eye-opener. Something else. But it was a out of this wine experience.
Yeah. And would have cost a small fortune.
I don't know what that wine is worth, but I'm not buying it.
Who cares? I was asking about the moment, not the fiscal reality.
Yeah.
Favourite driving song?
I've got many. Favourite driving song at the moment would be It would be Mona Lisa. I think it's track 7 on Carter 5, which is by Lil Wayne.
I'm going to have to check it out.
Go on.
And you'll all have to check it out.
It's rap.
Gotcha. We've asked, what do you want to be doing in 5 years? You've already told me that. Best thing about making wine for Naked Angel customers?
The appreciation, the support network. The comments, good or bad. You know, like to ride the highs and the lows with the people that are behind. You know, the movement. Fair to say.
Well, Leighton, I can't say this. It's been a pleasure to have you here. I was going to say it's been a joy, but that would be just too lame. I didn't mean it. It's been a pleasure to have you here and drink naked.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you gave up skateboarding. I'm glad that you gave up the dream of becoming a professional tennis player to become a dead set rock and roll star naked winemaker. And if what you've achieved in the last 4 years is any guide, the next 4 years are going to be truly exciting. So thank you very much.
Yeah, a pleasure, Stuart, and thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Terrific. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Drink Naked. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. If you like what you heard, leave a 5-star review. And if you think you know someone that might like it as much as you, please let them know that we exist. In the meantime, stay tuned for the next winemaker rockstar to come visiting at Naked HQ.